Coming up on this episode of Free Lunch.
I'm sitting there like, I don't gotta do nothing. I'm gonna do my
Gotta
own
do
way.
a daggone thing.
I'm gonna go do my own way.
But stay black and die.
Yeah, exactly, right? You know? And then you sit there, you rebel, and you go out and you do what you do. And then a lot of the problems, too, with individuals who achieve at a high level, they have to show that they've achieved at the high level. You know? And that's a big turnoff.
You taught him how to listen.
Yeah.
And that's crazy because, like, in all the things as, like, parents, we probably try to, like, exemplify or display to show our kids how to, like, emulate or do, like, a physical thing. We probably miss that thing a lot. I was just spiritually unhappy. I was not pursuing the passion and the calling on my life.
Yep.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Freestyle Gospel, a.k.a. The Real Free. And this is another episode of Free Lunch, free food for your soul. I got my man's here, Mark Morrison, blast from the past. I ain't seen this dude in a long time. Y'all know how I smuggle people into the studio, man. I straight pull up in the black van, throw the mask on them and throw them in and say, hey, man, you coming? But I use this platform as a way of like means of also getting a chance to catch up with people I haven't spoken to in a while. But also, like, it's kind of been like a mechanism too to just like stay regularly connected to people, and like more so like I guess have like what you could call an excuse to stay regularly connected. I mean, in a way, you kind of really shouldn't need a reason other than just, hey, that's good to do, right? But in the fast-paced, busy world we live in, and like having a family and all that stuff, it can get lost. But I appreciate being able to at least have this platform to do that, and for nothing else but talk and have like what I call edifying talk. Communication. Like I'm not the person that likes to just talk about like how's the weather, right? Or I'm not that dude. But like without any further ado, before I like get into it, man. Big up to my man Mark, y'all. Big up.
Thank you.
So what's good, man? How you been?
I've been all right, man. Just out here living, still doing the grind. Working and
now. I was trying to remember on your way here. I was actually like, there's certain people that you've like met a long time ago, and if you have like the time where you guys are connected or far and spaced out, like I don't know if that's ever happened to you. Like you sometimes forget like how actually do like I know that person. How did we meet? Like so I'm trying to remember like where did we actually meet for the first time?
Children's Center.
It was at the I was gonna say that.
Center.
It was at the Children's Center.
Yeah.
It was at work.
Yeah.
Okay, at my former job. And you were still there for a time after I left, right?
Yeah.
I left back in like 2008.
Yep. And I left 2 years after that, 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and for those who don't know, like the Children's Center, it's, I guess it's a few things, but it's a behavioral health place, for youth. We call it that. So we met there, and I remember I left to go on and do, I won't say great things. I'll say I left to go on and do a different thing.
A thing, yeah.
That's when I did that different thing. That's for another episode. Make sure you guys tune in. I always got to spoon feed you guys, man. You can't have it all in one. So you have a kid. We were talking about your kid before we got on the air.
Yeah.
Is that your only kid?
One kid, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. And he just turned
18 in
18.
August, yeah. So.
Yeah, we some OGs, you know what I'm saying? We might have, the looks, we got the handsome look still, the young. Don't let the baby face fool you, We've been around for a minute. So yeah, man. And then we actually, well, I think I was like a member first, but then you end up coming to my church, right? My church.
Was that
my church.
Was that where you were going when you were at the Children's Center, or?
No. I started going there in 2015. No. No, what am I saying? I started going there in 2009, 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like
A
shortly
year
after I
after,
left the
right.
children's center. Yeah. And when I was going, like we were like having services outside of the auditorium at the high school.
Okay.
Yeah. And back when like there was just like the Meadow Street, like the small campus building.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been there. Shout out to Cornerstone Christian Center. Shout out to Pastor Watts. Boop, 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 boop.
Good man.
Yeah, nah, good dude. You know, we actually, excuse me while I sip my tea, ladies and gentlemen. Some good tea. Forgot what I was going to say.
Pastor Watts.
Yes, Pastor Watts. I recently just had an episode. It hasn't aired yet, but like I pre-record these things. I keep them locked in the chamber, man. I got like 5 episodes before this one right now. It's funny because people like will come on like to do a show and they're like, "Hey, man, so that podcast that we did last week, man, like when are you gonna drop that, man?" I'm like, dude, that's like 4 weeks out right now. I'm sorry, man.
Oh, so I'm looking at like March.
Don't hold your breath. This might be like season 3. This might be the next season, bro. I'm dead serious. But yeah, so we recently recorded a podcast episode about humility and leadership. Yeah.
Definitely, that's definitely an example of that.
Yeah.
Definitely an example.
Yes.
Definitely an example of that.
Now, you know what came to my mind is that you ever hear of this new app that people like? I mean, it's not new now, but fairly new in comparing to other social media platforms. But Clubhouse?
No, I'm not big on the social media stuff.
Wow, you haven't heard of
man,
Clubhouse?
I'm still trying to deal with Facebook.
Oh man. Well, Clubhouse is like this, new platform that people are using, and it's like an audio based. So basically, like imagine, I don't know, like having your conversation and being like live, like an audio where people can like just plug in and like listen to you or join the conversation, speak themselves.
Okay.
Like, so it's like really, really dope for, for that. But anyway, so like they have all these different like chat rooms, with the, topics, they're based on certain topics. And so one of the things that I came across, or, I like to occasionally like poke in, like hear a conversation going on about, people, different spirituality and, people, talk about, the Bible or Christianity and stuff like that. Right. And one of the things that really made, it difficult for myself, but what I even noticed with some of the other people in these like kind of chat rooms, expressing as they express their heart and frustration, was when there would be a very knowledgeable or educated speaker facilitating a room, and because of their educational background or their title, maybe in religion or whatever, practicing faith, they spoke so like, I would hear them speak so degrading, like to people. Like when it came to, obviously when you cross paths with someone not as educated in the topic, in the subject matter that you're talking about as you are. So like, for instance, someone was trying to express their opinion about like a historical fact, like about like African Americans or or like the history of like Black people or whatever, which I'm like nowhere near like an expert in. Like I don't know so much, okay. But so I wanted to tune into this conversation because I want to learn,
Right.
What's out there, what people are talking about. And so someone, the way you like speak when you enter chat rooms, like you raise your hand or you like, it's like a signal button, so.
It's like a Zoom call or whatever, without the pictures? Or just
Yeah,
voice?
like, so yeah, imagine like an open Zoom with,
Okay.
video. Yeah. Where like you don't need a password to join, like you just pop in and out.
Okay.
So, so someone like, raised their hand, like to like speak, and this guy, his rebuttal. Now, mind you, this is the sad part, right? Is when as a leader or an expert in the field or whatever, right? Where your rebuttal or even your answer, maybe it's not a rebuttal, maybe you're giving an answer. When your answer is actually true, but its delivery or the skin or clothing in which your answer is shrouded in is arrogance, the answer can't be received.
Right, right.
So I listen to people get snared in the feelings of the thing rather than being able to be edified with the actual facts and the great knowledge that actually was attempted to be, brought across. So, when we had the discussion at the last episode, or not the last episode, but this particular podcast that I recorded about humility and leadership, I was reminded of this, like that phenomenon at Clubhouse. But I would imagine we experienced that in
life, yeah,
a bunch of different settings. Church being like a big one, that outside of like an app or social media, I've found. But like, would you say that's a thing that you experience often, or in like many different settings in like your life or groups, like whether it's the workplace, the religious place, the school, or
yeah, most definitely. When people find themselves labeled as experts, or they've arrived at a certain point in time in their fields of expertise, and they have certain labels against their names, they forget that they don't know everything, or they forget that they are still in the position to learn. Many people, because of the work, and I get it, because the work you put in to achieve a certain status, and I respect it, right? You feel that you've earned a certain level of respect that you want to command, right? And so if someone that you feel is not on your level and you're trying to talk to them, you're going to talk to them. Yeah, and sometimes it's not on purpose. Sometimes it's really not on purpose. It's not even consciously. It's just an arrogance.
You think so?
It's just a level of arrogance for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's just a level of arrogance.
So you think there's a lot of subconscious arrogance?
Yeah, it's a lot of subconscious arrogance, and again, it's because of the work that you put in. And I've experienced it. I may have even projected it at times.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to be able to be willing to listen, right? Because that's where the humility comes in, right?
Yes.
Humility is being able to listen to others. And
yes.
I can never remember which philosopher said it, whether it was Plato or Socrates, but the beginning of knowledge is to admit that you know nothing, right? So just to understand that you know nothing, no matter where you get to, right? You know nothing. So that means you're willing to listen.
No, that's a big ball to swallow for some people.
Oh,
man.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to swallow for a lot of people. No matter,
admitting you know nothing. Yeah. Nada.
Because things change, right?
Yeah.
And we, unless we're God ourselves, right?
We
don't know everything.
Yeah, man.
And so you can even, if you look at the sciences, a lot of sciences, they have these theories that they start with, and they hang their hats on it. But as those theories get explored, and they are, the experiments are repeated and whatnot, new discoveries come up.
You realize this don't work.
Yeah,
What we thought before.
We thought the Earth was flat, but it's actually round.
We don't think that no more.
Yeah, right. So,
okay.
And you change. So, again, it's I don't think it's on purpose. I think a lot of it is just because we've achieved a certain level of success, or we've achieved a certain title, we feel, and we speak from that absolute place, that absolute, like, this is absolute, like, and you have to, you can't challenge me, or, I know, so you have to take it. And then, like you said, right, you turn people off with that. You really, depending on how you present, you turn people off.
Are there any that you could recall from either your childhood or, recent life, like as a, hold on, wait, let me finish. Mark is already like, I sense where this is going.
No,
but listen, is there any time you can recall from your past or present, a time where, not a time, is there a particular wisdom that you remember getting as a child or in your recent past as an adult that you can reflect upon and really receive now, but when you first came across it, it was attached to arrogance, and that's why you couldn't receive it back then. But now you can as you reflect.
Well, I mean, thinking about my past, because that's probably the one spot that I can really look at. Growing up as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And dealing with your parents and certain things that they say to you and whatnot, certain instructions that they give you or certain guidance that they present to you. And in your natural rebellious nature, because as children we struggle with being obedient at times, and you push back at things, right? For instance,
but see, when we're kids, like we have that normal, just natural rebellious nature, right? But was there something you were pushing back on that because it was connected to arrogance, not childish rebelliousness on your part? I'm just saying the person who was just delivering the wisdom or the knowledge, they were not delivering it with any ounce of humility. It was just all whether their position of authority or and maybe that is what leads to
rebellion,
stirring up the rebellious nature that's within us as kids. Because, it's like some of those adults in my memory that I could think of as a kid, like their approach was all, I'm grown, you're not. Right, so I know everything.
I know more, yeah. Well, I can go back to my early experience in church, and because I wasn't always walking in faith. I won't say walking in faith. I wasn't always walking in obedience, I should say, right? And it's because of how the approach was said to me about certain things or certain directions I was going in and things of that nature, or you got to stop doing this, or you're not acting right, and he's not gonna accept you. You got to change. You got to do all this stuff first. And I'm sitting there like, I don't gotta do nothing. I'm gonna do my
gotta
own
do
way.
a daggone thing.
I'm gonna go do my own way.
But stay black and die.
Exactly, right. And then you sit there, you rebel, and you go out and you do what you do, and then all of a sudden you realize when you come back, you're like, man, I should have listened.
They was talking right. You know what? They was talking right.
Man, I should have listened to mother's advice right there, because I could have been in a different path right now.
You know what? But you said something that made me think of this thing that I do a lot with my girls, my two older ones in particular, is this thing where when I'm exacting my corrective strategy, when I'm disciplining, and they're responding because they're still daddy's girls, they're still my princess. My oldest I call High Chief Imperial Princess because she's the first. And my second oldest, I call her Chief Imperial Princess. And then the third one is Imperial Princess.
Okay.
So they know I adore them. And if you're a dad like me and has, daddy's girls, it's always kind of difficult to discipline them. So that aside, because I don't like doing it when I have to, and then they have the daddy's girls pout face. So now they're pulling on my heartstrings, right? So this is what I've had to kind of do, or what I've decided to kind of share with them when they're giving me their attitude, especially because they're 18 and we're about to be 16 now. I'm getting all the cut eyes and all. I'm getting all the smoke. When they're doing that, I always make it a point to tell them, listen. And this is me attempting to be both the grown up parent who's in charge and got all the control over their things, right, and all that, but still coming across with humility.
Right.
I tell them, listen, you might be very upset about the consequence right now. You might think that it's unfair. You might think all that stuff. And you know something? You might actually be right.
Right.
I want you to know that. I want you to hear those words coming from my mouth right now. That how I'm going about this and choosing to handle this as your parent, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you or I or us both may come to the realization it was the wrong way to go about this.
Right.
But in this moment, I am simply doing all I know to do and doing my best, taking my best judgment here and now in this moment. And you know what? If somewhere down the road, when you get in my shoes, in my position, and it's your kid, and you're the one trying to figure out what's the best corrective action as a parent to help steer your kid,
Right.
or grow them in the right direction, you'll realize and actually see how complex this decision for me really is.
Right.
Because I don't get fun out of making you miserable or seeing you cry or like me and mom don't, after I deliver my punishment, go back in our room and high five and yeah, we showed them. Like, no, I hurt. I don't want to see you sad. I don't want to take things from you or, so I'm really, really trying to, as a leader, right? We, along this line of like humility and leadership, right? Think of all the different roles that we could possess that are leadership roles in our life. Like, right? Like, it doesn't have to just be a church. It just doesn't have to be you're a leader at your job. Like, you're a leader as a parent. Right. You're a leader as a uncle, maybe, or a, big cousin or whatever. And so we should be really trying to drive home that idea or that, that practice of being humble in all those facets, because in my opinion, at least, I think, at least the times it was done to me, those were the times where I was most receptive to whatever the wisdom or knowledge, whatever that was coming across. Now, mind you, that doesn't mean I always followed it, whatever it was, but I definitely received it far easier.
Right. And so I work with kids. I haven't since Children's Center. Well, since before Children's Center.
Absolutely.
I keep working with kids. So I'm a teacher also.
We do this.
Right. Exactly. And so, so a lot of my reflections on leadership, and I've been in other leadership positions over adults and stuff like that. Humility comes with also not only knowing that you don't know everything, but to also understand when you could possibly be wrong, right? And also accept the fact when you're wrong and being able to go back and admit it, not just walk away. And I've been in situations where people have been wrong, have found themselves wrong,
and don't do the double back.
And they don't do the double back. They walk away like they were still right. I know in the back of their mind they're like this, and then it messes you up moving forward, because in those situations I'm like, I know I'm right, and they know I'm right, and you know what? I'm never listening to them again. Like, there's no conversation. You're done with me. You can't leave me no more.
Wow.
And with me and my son, like your daughters and stuff like that. Anytime like me and him had a situation we had to resolve or whatnot, and I had to be the parent, and if I found myself as wrong, I would always double back and apologize.
That's awesome, man.
Or there was always, even if I was right, there was always a conversation to process, right?
Yeah.
Because even you're right, you got to be able to process, because you can have your point of view and whatnot. One thing I love about conversation or conversing with people is hearing their point of views, or hearing every side to everything, right? Because it just makes the conversation that much more deeper, right?
Yeah.
And I can walk away from a conversation and be like, okay, I feel that I was right, but they, did a lot of talking, and I can accept that. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people, there has to be a victor, or your side has to prevail over, over in the conversation.
There has to be a loser.
Yeah, there's got to be a loser, and there can only be one.
Oh, there can only be one. No, you didn't hit us with the Highlander.
So yeah, so
he's showing his age, y'all.
Nah, come on, man, that's a cult classic. So you just gotta to be able to show that humility. You gotta be willing to be ready to be wrong, or you gotta be able to acknowledge you're wrong, or just have those conversations and hear from just really listen to where that other person's coming from. And what happens with me and my son, for instance, I don't have to raise a voice. I don't have to be too stern.
Yeah.
I don't even have to do like the look.
Yeah.
That look. It's I say, and he literally thinks about it. and he might come back and do what I did. So now it's like,
yeah.
now that I've taught him how to listen, I've taught him how to be humble, I've taught him how to come back and say, I'm sorry. I taught him how to come back and explain himself and listen to me explain myself.
That's fire though. You just said something like grab me for a second. So you taught him how to listen.
Yeah.
And that's crazy because like in all the things as like parents, we probably try to like exemplify or display to show our kids how to like emulate or do like a physical thing. We probably miss that thing a lot. Like showing my kid how to communicate, not just verbally, but showing them the other side of that, showing my kid how to listen. And how do I display that? How do I become the first example of how to do that? How do I teach my kids how to be humble and apologize?
Right.
Like many of us as parents, like you can get caught up in just telling that you should apologize. You do this, and then they grow up never seeing you apologize.
Right. Or hearing, not even seeing it.
Or just hearing
it to them. They'll hear you apologize to another adult.
Yeah.
I grew up hearing the apologies to an adult, but I never heard when I was right, like, can I get a piece of that? Like,
can I be right?
Hey, can I?
Younger people deserve no apology.
Right?
You rebellious youth.
Yeah. And so, but again, it goes into that type of leadership. I think of a good CEO. I always say like a good CEO or a good head of any business, right? The way that they show humility is by listening to the people around them and being able to accept what others have to say, regardless of how you may feel. You may make that fun. I had this discussion with my class today. I said we're planning a party for our 100-day celebration, and they came with a whole bunch of ideas. I mean, they were outlandish.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we get 100 pieces of food and we throw it at you. Like, okay, really? Or
what? How old are these kids? What grade is?
Fourth grade.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, hey, you buy us all 100 pieces of candy. I was like, your parents are killing me. Come on, guys.
Oh god.
So they came with a bunch of stuff, and and I said, okay, I'll write them all down.
Okay.
And then we debated and we voted, and I said, listen, I want you guys to understand something. We are a class, but I'm the CEO.
Yes.
So I'm gonna take your ideas.
I got the veto.
And I'm gonna cross this one off over here.
Okay.
And I'm gonna keep this one right here, but we're gonna adjust it. Keep that, keep the basis of it. We're gonna adjust it and make it more appropriate.
Yeah.
But understand, like, I make the final decision, and that's what a leader does. It's not like, oh, I'm in charge. No, we're reerasing this. This is where we're gonna do it. You lose people like that.
Yeah.
And that's going back to your point. When you present something, you have to present it in that mode where you're presenting a fact for a discussion. You're not presenting a fact to tell and walk away and say that I was right.
Or just being intentional with the idea that when I'm delivering whatever this fact or wisdom, knowledge, or even consequence, right? I'm delivering it with a degree of intentionality. With intentionality, to say I have a defined or identified goal or purpose for this moment. And I think that's, obviously we I think start off as not just parents, but human beings. As we enter adult life, specifically, we start adult life really just using the tools from our upbringing, right? So when maybe you first become a dad, or you've, whatever it is that relationship in your life as an adult, right? Your kind of foundational knowledge of how to do that comes from your experience.
Right.
And as we all know, that's not always the best, right? Or appropriate experience. Part of my childhood, experience, we was getting beatings with extension cords and sticks outside and right? So there's obviously there's like this like void there that you could argue isn't entirely our fault, right? Like the gaps in, that come from, right? But I think if you can adopt a spirit of, you mentioned earlier, remembering you're always a student. So now when you are that adult and you're in that authoritative role, whether it's a parent, a teacher, whatever, executive in corporate America, with the mindset, I'm always a teacher, or I'm always a student,
a learner, right? Yeah.
Right? I am going to be looking for opportunities to learn.
Right.
I won't be pulling from just my past experience. And then that's it.
Right. Here's the other part of it too, right? I read a article the other week about a coach who stood up in front of his team and was like talking to them and just to point out where everyone came from, just to put everyone on the same playing field.
Oh, okay.
And he talked about all their failures, and he had them all stand up, and he listed all their failures, and they all sat down until everybody was sitting down in the room, just to say, hey, we all came from somewhere. You got to remember that, right? My approach in my life has always been, especially with my son, is to not repeat the mistakes that I went through, or not to repeat the mistakes that I saw.
Yes.
So as any person, no matter where you climb, no matter where you started and you had to climb yourself up to, it's never forget that first rung that you had to put your foot on to walk up. Always look back at it. And I think going back to that individual, right? An individual that we talk about that presents something in a certain manner that turns people off. We tend to forget when we done all that hard work, earn the masters, the PhDs, the doctors in front of our names and all that stuff. Some people, because of that hard work, they forget, or they don't even want to look back sometimes at that first rung. And sometimes it's good to always look back, because when you have those conversations, you now can present it in a way as I'm presenting it to me that took that first step. So I'm going to help that me take that first step and reach that next step and try to bring them up to where I'm at right now.
Yes.
And that's also another part of the humility piece.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, man. Gotta have it shrouded in humility, man. Because that's the best delivery. Like, I mean, when you talk about, people and, history, or, if you're a Bible reader, like, this is what Jesus, like, right? Like, where he's like down on his hand and he's washing like someone's feet. Like, who doesn't want to receive from something and someone shrouded like that?
Right.
Covered, like, it's not, it's less threatening, right? Like, some people, they just are threatened by all the alphabets and letters at the end of your name. Before you open your mouth.
Right.
You could be the most humblest person in the world. But the minute you enter certain rooms and how your title or your name precedes you, like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, we are having guest speaker Mark Morrison come in today, PhD of such and such and such, whatever. The room already has a degree of tension as a baseline. You don't even, so when you enter the room, your job becomes, let me remove already what's the baseline tension that may have preceded me before I even had a chance.
Right.
And now, when I open my mouth, it'll either validate or invalidate the tension, which is going to act as a resistor to all that I wish these people receive in the room. Whether, again, it's that school, lecture hall, the corporate office, meeting space, your home, husband, father, it doesn't matter. You want, the end goal is for you to be received in what you have to share. Wealth of knowledge and all.
Right. And I love the Jesus example, because I mean, you can't not love it. Because one of the things about his humility too, right? And one things that I as I got older, you hear the Bible stories. I grew up in church, so you hear all the stories and you hear all the parables that Jesus told and all this stuff, and the way that he interacted with people and whatnot. But as I got older and I started really looking into it more, At one point, I did a study where I just read the red words in the New Testament.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
want to read any black words.
Yeah,
I just wanted to just hear what he had to say. And I realized he could have presented it, all knowledge, all knowing. Could have presented it in a way that could have been above their heads, right?
Yep.
But he spoke in their language, on their terms, right? Yeah. And the problem, and that shows humility within self, right? To restrain how big your brain is or how vast your wisdom is, right? And a lot of the problems too with individuals who achieve at a high level, they have to show that they've achieved at the high level. And that's a big turnoff to some people.
But don't you think the reason that happens is really because of an underlying lack of self-confidence?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. So you have to...
Because it's almost like as if that person or individual doesn't even believe in the degrees that they even have.
Right.
Like you doing all the toiling and all the work and getting all the letters and things still hasn't fulfilled you. Right. Because what truly needs to be healed and fulfilled is that scared little person on the inside of you that has a lack of self-confidence.
Right. Yeah.
So people try to fill those voids with making a bunch of money, getting a bunch of degrees, and really just search of happiness or feel good. Like it becomes degrees and prowess and a ton of money becomes really like the opium for this deeper rooted ailment.
Right.
Like, so I'll just continue to drug it. I'll just continue to pop the education and degree pill. I'll continue to pop the money pill. And now to kind of mask my true pain and true, the things I'm lacking in my spirit, I'll use that.
Yeah, I see that. And then you see a lot of people now, right, that are chasing it or have chased it. And they get to a certain point, and then you really have these conversations with them, and you find out, like, you're from afar, you're looking like, man, they're living the life, they're happy. And then I have the conversations with them, and they're like,
negative.
Yeah, I'm like,
bro.
What? I'm like, are you serious?
Bro, that's like one of my biggest testimonies, bro. Like, you know how many people were, I have to just give it to you guys. Yo, you know how many people were really just flabbergasted and shocked when I left working at the police department, like making 6 figures a year, 110, 120 grand a year, easy. They couldn't get it. And it was because I was just spiritually unhappy. I was not pursuing the passion and the calling on my life.
Yep.
And no amount of money could mask that. And I was just grateful to be someone who discovered and finally realized that sooner than later. Because how many people like celebrities we read about in the news, or they go in a direction of their life for years, 20 years, 30 years, doing a thing because it simply is just bringing in great money, and find out at a certain point in the distant future, wow, I'm still unhappy. And then they choose to swallow a bunch of pills or jump off a building. And we're reading the news and going, what?
Yeah.
How could they be unhappy? They were making millions of millions. They just did that movie, or they just,
just signed that contract.
How? I wish I had their money. I would be. It doesn't. It's not enough. It will not suffice. And I'm so grateful that I was able to have that epiphany, to go, I have to do something. I have to choose to heal the spirit man on the inside first, and let my growth come from the inside out.
Right.
Not chasing it backwards. Not chasing the material things on the outside of me, making sure I got the big house, or making sure I'm got the job that's paying me a ton of money. And then, you know what? Let me just finish this, getting this degree. Let me just finish working on this. Let me just get this. And then I'll start my gym membership where I work on my physical health. Right. Then I'll start working. I'll start going to therapy. Then I don't have time for therapy right now. Right. I know I need it, but I just need to get through this. It's always yourself is always on the back end,
Right.
working from the outside in.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's how we've been built. But then, as you were saying that about working from the inside out, or healing your spirit, man, seek ye first the kingdom of God, right? It goes deeper, right?
Y'all better hear it.
So
seek ye first,
and so the kingdom is spiritual. It's all spiritual.
Yeah.
So that's that inside man, and it's not necessarily just limited to just getting saved, get baptized, being in church, right? It's literally working on that inside spirit, man.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, everything else is gonna come. Everything your passions will be revealed to you. What you need, to heal is gonna be revealed to you. Where you need to go is gonna be revealed to you. And then all of a sudden, everything starts to fall in place. It might not be a grand mansion, but it's gonna be a nice 2-family house that you own, right?
But the funny part is when the inside is actually healed and whole, you realize how much you don't care about
the
things on the outside.
All of a sudden, you don't need that extra degree. All of a sudden, you don't need that extra overtime. You're satisfied with doing 40, maybe 45 hours, and then you're good.
I often quote this African proverb I came across that says, "If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm."
Okay.
And that's what this makes me think about. It reminds me of that. Is like when the inside is actually made whole, you really don't care about that which is lacking on the outside.
Right. That's deep.
Like, and that's what I've come to realize. Like, I am 10 times happier making a literal fraction of the money I was making 6-figure income at. And so now I feel as though it's the new beginning, and it's the new beginning where I believe someday, real soon, I'll be at that 6-figure plus, and beyond, real soon. But look at how much more fortified the foundation, the inside is, from which that all those things will sprout.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now those all of what can come from all the things on the outside of me that I may have access to or whatever, are able to be like to such a far more saturated degree, a blessing or impact to everyone and things around me.
And I'm sure you're also not pressing as much in what you're doing, right? And so because you're not pressing as much as what you're doing, everything seems to just line up and just like it's like that puzzle piece just goes
without breaking a sweat.
Right. Yeah.
Like this is just
you turn around, it's like, oh, that's what I wanted to do. And look at this, like
exactly.
It just becomes easier, man. And
what do you think is like the biggest hurdle for people to actually get to that point? Like to turn and look inward and go, I value the me on the inside first before everything outside of me.
Because we've been taught to look outside of ourselves in life, period. We've set milestones that we have to achieve. There's certain ways that we have to achieve those milestones. That's been present to many people. Saying that there's only this path that you have to walk. We were talking about this before, right?
Yeah.
The whole school thing, how people are pushed to go to school early.
Yeah.
And you have creative minds who want to create, and it's been shown factually that you can make it, and you can make it big without having to go to school and stuff like that. So it's the fear of breaking away from the societal norms and chasing what purposes you have implanted in you, right? And really exploring them and building them out. Because you're fearful of never achieving anything or failing or not being able to make even a fraction of what you think that degree might bring and stuff like that.
But that's you use the buzzword that's the true, like, hitting the nail on the head is afraid. Fear being at the epicenter of all of that the mindset that controls our actions and all that. It's this fear. And I got to tell you, like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, lie. I'm transparent with anybody, anytime they, care to ask me. And sometimes I just give y'all this 2 cents because I feel like telling y'all. But listen, hey, yo, if you enjoying this content, if you feel like you're actually getting something from it, be sure to follow Free Lunch everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Free Lunch. That's FRII Lunch. And be sure to subscribe, follow us everywhere. Podcast streaming is available. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, it doesn't matter. We here. It's Free Lunch with The Real Free. I'm really transparent, man, with this very new process to me, like for the last 3 months where I've been full-time entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Like never before in my life have I pursued my passion, my own like business or platform full-time. Like the only money I bring into my home to pay my bills is what you see me doing here in this office. I mean, well, outside of the podcast, what I do in this office, amongst other things, whether it's voiceover, my music, poetry, books, that's it. And when I tell you unplugging and jumping, taking that leap from the normal thing, the consistent thing, the thing you can bank on, that check every Friday.
Yeah.
Right? That is frightening. That's frightening. Like, let me like level with you guys here who might be listening to this. Like this, what we're saying is, hey, we understand fear is at the center.
Right. What
we're not saying is that we haven't been there. We're higher or mightier than thou. Like, shame on you, you evil, pathetic human out there who's afraid to chase after your passion or what you've been made to do. No, it's very, very real and common. I get it. But a saying me and my wife have had all 2020, 2021, ever since really the top of the pandemic, has been this idea of do it scared. Then do it scared. First, just admitting, admitting, having kind of that acceptance that fear is the opposition.
Right.
I'm identifying the enemy, right? I'm not pretending the enemy isn't there.
Right.
I'm identifying the enemy, and then I'm making I'm having a resolve on the inside that says, even though I see you, and I want you to know I see you.
Right.
I'm not afraid of admitting or seeing that, letting you know that I even see you.
Right.
Fear. I'm still gonna do it afraid.
Right.
And that's the courage piece, right? Like we hear people say about so many different ways, but you can't have courage without the presence of fear.
Right.
It's not called courage then, right? I'm going to do it afraid. And I remember one experience I had being in in the police academy when I started out at the police department was I had never in my life even touched a gun. And you had all these other police recruits who were there at the academy who were ex-military or even just civilians, but people who owned guns and constantly went to the gun range.
Yeah.
So they, felt more or less prepared for this part of police training, right? I'm a fish out of water. I haven't even touched a gun before. And so I remember being in the classroom and having this crazy anxiety and fear, like I'm gonna have to get on this range and operate this thing. And so anytime it came to using a handgun and demonstrations were being taught or done in class, and it came time for the instructor to ask for a volunteer to go first.
Yeah.
I made a decision early in the academy that I will always be first to raise my hand. I'm going to and the more scared I am, the faster I'm gonna force myself to throw my hand, because once the hand goes up, I can't take it back.
Right, you gotta go.
And when I tell you, I did that so much to the point where what was or started off as fear became excellence. I became one of the most excellent firearms students in that academy. I'm talking about always high scores on the range, to the point where we would do this drill inside the class where we'd have the instructor at the front and face off with the instructor to see who could pull out their gun out the holster the fastest.
Yeah.
Beat the instructor. Because I was always being bold and courageous enough to say, I'm going to go first. I'm going to do it first. Kicking fear in the face, doing it scared. And I think that's we really get, when you dare to just take that first step, we start to see the other steps become easier and easier.
Right. And so, a couple of things, because as we talk about this, I don't know, remember that Will Smith movie, After Earth, with him and his son? It was the first movie. I think it was the first.
I saw it, but it was so long, I don't remember much of it.
So in the movie, me and my son watched it, and I remember, I'll never forget, like, he was younger, and he was playing baseball, and he scared the ball, scared us, all that stuff, and we watched the movie, and he had this line in the movie, talking to his son. He said, fear is not real. Fear is something that we make up.
Yeah, boy, I love that part.
And so that part, I love that part, because
I
love it for two reasons. Because after watching it, I sat and had a conversation with him about it.
Wasn't it? He said something about we have fear of something that has not yet occurred.
Right. We create it. Right. We create it. And so I was like, wow, it just hit me deep.
Ghosting.
Yeah.
That was the technique. Teaching them how to ghost.
Yeah, ghost, right.
When you're like walking amongst the scared, big thing.
Yeah.
And being able to be silent, cool, calm. Yeah.
And so that's right, fear. Once you face the fear and you can calm all your anxieties down and whatnot, and you can walk into that darkness, right?
Wow.
Especially if you have that confidence, right? Not only yourself, but in whatever your beliefs or whatnot.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's God. You're walking with God.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
into that darkness, like, you can definitely, no matter, you're gonna understand. Yes, I'm scared right now, but what is possibly on that other side of the darkness is greater than what I feel right now.
Ooh, I like that. What's on the other side?
Right. And so I actually, it's real funny that you're even talking about fear, because recently, this past summer, not going to go into it, but some things happened. And I started watching some videos on YouTube, and I came across this TED Talk about fear. And it's like, fear, the presence of fear is real, right? Kind of like the Will Smith thing.
Yeah.
Because we look at the negative side of things too much. And that negative, it exists, right? Life is a two-sided coin, right? So you have the fear side, but we look at that one side and we always say, man, that's going to pop up. Heads is going to come up every single time.
I know it.
But we forget that on the backside, there's that success that can pop up, right? And if you flip the coin and it lands on the heads and it doesn't work out, guess what you can do again? Take that coin back
Flip
up.
that mug again.
Flip it again. So like,
I love it.
So you can't
flip that mug again.
Exactly, right.
That sounds like a T-shirt, bro. I'm about to drop the hoodies. Flip that mug again.
So yeah, man. So we can't let fear hold us back, man. Because even at the end, if you reach failure, you can just start again, and who knows, success. No matter how many times you gotta flip that coin, man. Eventually, it's not gonna say 100% times heads. One time out of 100, it's gotta hit tails.
And I think though, still, like, because if you like believe how I believe, like, we're such powerful creative beings with just our thoughts. You keep obsessing over the coin flip that I know it's gonna fail. I know. What's the saying that goes? Whether you think you can or think you can't, either way, you're absolutely right.
Right. Yeah, I like that one too.
Like your thought, you obsess constantly over not doing something because you keep saying, I know I'm gonna fail. I know it's gonna fail. I know it's gonna fail. And then eventually you end up failing, not because it wasn't destined for it to succeed. You end up failing because you manifested failure.
Failure, right. And then even within that failure, so what if you fail? You know what I mean? Like, you can't be, the greatest things come from failure. What did they say? They said, well, there's a bunch of different sayings. Because I have a couple of them in the classroom. Thomas Edison failed, 1,000 times before he got the light bulb right? Over 1,000 times before he got it right. If he quit at number one, we'd still be walking around with lamps and oil.
You got to, man.
So,
I think at the end of every show we have, because it's the free lunch podcast, free food for your soul. So we like to end on a note where it's like something that the audience could make sure they take away that's edifying for the soul, like food, like lunch, like your lunch. What would you say out of all of what like we mentioned today, whether it's like the whole leadership part, and that, humility, or whether it be, concerning fear, whatever. What's something that you want the audience to remember from this conversation that's edifying for the soul? Like kind of like the one-liner.
One line. Oh.
Or a couple. It doesn't matter. Just what's the message to take away from this?
The message that I'm actually walking away with from here, because it's gonna tie back into the fear thing, right? Is don't be scared to walk into my purpose. Like you're doing it right now, and it's admirable. It's actually inspiring. Like don't be scared to walk into my purpose. There's some things that I've been holding back on, man. Like don't be scared to walk into my purpose and just let go, man. Let go. Let go and just do it. So yeah.
Just do it. Nike that thing, man. More teas coming. Yo, that's amazing, man. I'm one, thank you. I'm humbled to be able to be an inspiration or inspire anybody. While, like I said and confessed, while I continue to do it scared. Every single day I come into this office space or come into this studio, I'm throwing my hand up. I'm throwing my hand up first. I'm daring every day I enter this space to do it scared.
I like that one too, throw your hand up.
And I think, it makes me think of that other saying, the other quote that goes, you'll never have what you've never had unless you do what you've never done.
Right.
And so every day I come in here again, I can come in here with expectation. I'm expecting to see today something or experience something I haven't ever seen or experienced before.
Right.
And that gets me excited. That keeps me motivated to show up again tomorrow. If God gives me tomorrow and I awake with breath in my lungs, I'm going to throw my hand up again. I'm going to run forward again, even in the face of fear, because I want to see. I'm that curious. I want to see something I've never seen. I want to experience something I've never experienced. Hey, y'all listening? Throw your hands up, y'all. Don't be afraid to throw your hand up. Don't be afraid to do it afraid. Whatever it is for you, whatever the passion, whatever it is that you've been putting on hold, whatever it is that you haven't been getting to because you don't think you have the right, amount of things or have enough money, whatever it is, you know what it is. Only you know what it is for many of us out there. You know what that is, that unfinished book project, the podcast that you're supposed to have been started, the product you were supposed to make. You know what it is. It's Freestyle Gospel, a.k.a. The Real Free. It's free food for your soul, y'all. Peace.